Seems like everywhere we turn, we see tons of news about Nvidia stock, and there's obvious reasons why. This company has risen near and to the top of the most valuable companies while returning an impressive performance in 2024. But it makes you wonder, what about AMD stock? Could this stock be the next to rise with Nvidia despite its rather lackluster performance so far in 2024? Well, today in this video, we need to look at AMD's financial performance and future price prediction against a thesis that I have, which is this. Could AMD rise to be a valuable company nearby Nvidia? Now, to be clear, this is not in any way a video of AMD versus Nvidia, but rather this thesis. Could AMD be the Apple to Nvidia's Microsoft? Here's what I mean by that. The year is 2007, and Microsoft is the third largest company rated by market cap in the top 20 companies in the S&P 500. Where is Apple? Nowhere on this list, not even in the top 20 companies. In fact, Apple was kind of a mediocre company until the launch of the iPhone, and this led their ability to grow their computing systems and their entire ecosystem, leading them to be the powerhouse that they are today. At the start of 2024, Apple rose to the top most valuable company, with Microsoft in second place. Now, I think that Nvidia will continue to be a clear market leader with GPU development, but could there be a day that we see AMD in close second place to Nvidia on the top 20 companies in the S&P 500. After all, AMD focuses heavily on CPUs, on GPUs, on data centers, and much more. With a focus, and a big focus right now on artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, and what I like to call the second generation of technology, will this rising tide lift all boats in this case? And after all, AMD is still up 43% in the last year and 3,825% in the last 10 years. It's not going backwards, but it's just not as high as the Nvidia stock, at least not for now. So to get a better understanding, we need to look at AMD's future products that they're coming out with, and then we'll look at its financial performance, and then we'll finish up with a future price prediction. Let's start off with the future products. We need to look at these upcoming projects and innovations that could set AMD up for the success, visibility, and ultimately the stock price improvement that we all want. See, what happened with Apple is it rocketed their innovation with the iPhone in 2007. It was the big breakthrough that led towards so much more adoption. I mean, I'm looking at an iMac. I never had any of this stuff before. And see, AMD has recently announced a ton of great future products to keep our eyes on that could be market disruptors. First, they have CPUs that are well above and beyond, and they're continuing to grow to completely smash out Intel. New GPUs, and number three, the most important, is major advancements in data centers to amplify the upcoming AI boom. But let's talk about the latest development. In fact, just announced on June 19th, AMD mentioned that Sun Singapore Systems, the largest smart parking solutions provider in Singapore, is developing a new AI-based smart parking solution powered by AMD devices. Not only that, AMD is also looking beyond the most recent data center demand for high-end AI chips, focusing on another aspect of the AI market. So what AMD wants to do is they want to carve out a hefty chunk of the AI personal computer market. See, a study released in January by Canalys predicted that 60% of PCs shipped by the year 2027 will be AI capable, making a significant shift in the technology landscape. Now, and this push toward personal direct AI tools will need a chip capable of handling that intense workload that AI provides. What is that chip? None other than the Ryzen AI 300 series, introduced just this month in June of 2024 at the Computex conference. These are things as investors to keep your eye on. See, AMD is making moves with their products, and they're getting bullish on the future technology 2.0. This could sound similar to Apple back in the day. But how does this all benefit us as investors? So some of the things that I'm going to be looking for in the future is, number one, do the announcements of the upcoming products align with or exceed earlier expectations of those products? Number two, is there appropriate hype over this upcoming launch or the future launches? See, we want to see the companies, individuals, the tech nerds We want to see people geeking out about the announcements of AMD. If there's a disappointment in any of their products, that could lead toward headwinds that could potentially impact the financial performance. And number 3, assuming that the first 2 points I just mentioned are in good check, we want to see great demand for the product that would push the revenues and earnings even higher. And that'll lead us into strong reports and potentially a higher stock price, probably I'd say 2 to 3 quarters into the results of that product. See, with AMD's focus on growth, it leads us to an important piece, and that is what you're all excited about, the earnings expectation. So let's look at some key things that I tend to focus on when I analyze companies' financial reports. So before I buy a stock, there are 2 things that I think about. Take note of this. Number 1, do I want to literally own this company? If I decide to buy the company, I'm going to be an owner of the stock and I'm going to expect results from that company. I don't want to treat my stock picks like a roulette table. Instead, I want to treat them like a long-term growth machine for the future. And if I think the company is dumb, I'm not going to invest in it. And I'll show you some tools here in a minute. Number 2, are their current earnings sound enough today that could make for future growth and returns combined with their products and services coming down the line that we just talked about? So right here we are on my favorite investment research tool here on Seeking Alpha. First thing, I don't really care right now about that price, okay? Right now the stock market's closed, it's sitting at 161. You're probably watching it in the future and it's either gonna be higher than that or lower than that. Not really caring about the price right now. You know, as investors that are really looking behind the scenes here, there's something more important to us, and that is right here on the financials tab. A couple things I'm going to look at. And this helps us understand if this company could potentially see some upswing in their growth and some more adoption in the future to be up there in the top 20 of the S&P 500. And when that happens, this stock price will be higher. And then we'll be celebrating, enjoying, everything will be great. Let's go to financials first. So we click on the financials tab. The very first thing I want to look at, and I'm going to look at right now on an annual basis, I want to look first at this right here, the revenues. You want to make sure that the revenues are going up over time. If the revenues are going down, this company could be struggling and it could be something of concern. But as we see here from AMD, have a look at this. Back here, all the way back here in 2015, that was kind of lame, 3,991. But then scaling all the way up here, look at this, 22,680. Now that is a little bit of a dip from 2022, but we are seeing some interesting potential here in 2024. So what I'm going to expect is revenue will continue to grow over this next year and hopefully be well above and beyond that $23.6 billion. We also want to look at their profit down here, gross profit. You can see that is also on a little bit of a rise. That's good news as well. Combined with the products that they're coming out with, we could potentially see this continue to grow at a better rate. See, the thing with Nvidia, again, this isn't a comparison between the 2 companies, but with Nvidia, they are seeing absolute mind-blowing, robust growth. AMD's a little bit soft, right? It's good growth, don't get me wrong, but it's not robust growth. And that's what we're looking for in the future. If this could all of a sudden take off in its own right, and I'm not saying to compete with Nvidia, I'm talking about the data centers, talking about AI, personal computing, all that cool stuff we just talked about. Oh man, there could be some really cool potential. If that doesn't happen though, we're gonna see it in the reports, and then we gotta reanalyze this entire thesis. We need to reanalyze if holding the stock is still worth it or not. So next thing up, the third thing I look at, operating income right here. We're still on the overall income statement right up here at the top, right? So we're gonna look at their operating income to make sure that's a positive growing number. Not too bad, there's some weakness here going on, so we need to keep our eyes on that. And then their EBITDA, that's important. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So this also should be on a relatively nice upswing. You see down here though, we have some negative numbers. Things aren't looking good. And if we scroll up here, we can see that's from 2016, 2015. We're not even talking about COVID. This is just back in the day. Things weren't looking good, but it started to come out of the hole and it started to grow. Next up on deck, let's go up to the top and look at balance sheet. What we're going to be looking at here is I want to look at their current assets and liabilities. Really bottom line here when you're looking at a company is to make sure that right in scope here, you see their current assets and their current liabilities. That is everything that can be converted quickly to cash. So if we're looking here at the last report, all right, 17 billion compared to current liabilities of only 6 billion. So if they sold everything, they had to liquidate everything, they would have enough assets. A lot of times companies, they get too far in debt and they don't have, like, they're basically like a consumer. They're so far in debt that if they sold everything, they'd still be in debt. They'd be completely screwed. That would be a major red flag. At the very bottom of the balance sheet, especially if you use a tool like Seeking Alpha here, we want to look at the common shares outstanding. This means the more they continue to add shares into the market. So if you see this number going up over time, we do a little bit, but it seems to be a little bit flatline here in the last couple. You see it's 1.6, 1.6, 1.6. That's okay. I'll deal with that for now. Ideally, we want to see that come down. Have you heard of the term share buybacks? That's where this gets beneficial. If a company announces a share buyback, they're reducing the amount of shares outstanding. When you reduce the amount of shares outstanding, that tends to drive the stock price up. Now let's take a look at the cash flow. All you got to do on this tab that I really like and I look at quite frequently is the levered free cash flow. And actually, if I mouse over here, levered free cash flow, you see what that is? That's the amount of money a company has left after they've paid all of their financial obligations. So kind of important. This is the actual money. This is the cash that they got on hand, cash flow. That's the deal. And that free cash flow is always good to see a positive number. There are times that you see a company go negative, like we saw here with AMD back in the day, but things are looking good and it is improving year over year slightly. Had a little bit of a great run in 2021, 2022, dip down here, but we do want to see that improve. I'd like to see that back at $3 billion over the next 2 and 3 years, especially if we're focused on computing and PCs with AI in 2027. That's the year we're focused on. So please, if you're going to comment down below that, hey, the stock price is down to 150, 140, 100, don't care unless it's after the year 2027. Then you're allowed to go ahead and comment and you can give me a hard time or not. We'll find out. But that is what I look at. Now, if everything checks out and everything looks good, in this case it does, then I may decide to go ahead and consider buying the stock. Not financial advice to any of you, express or implied, to buy, hold, or sell a stock. But this is kind of the stuff I look at. Now remember, for my dividend investors, this is not a dividend paying stock, okay? This is a growth stock. Your goal here is you're giving up the dividends for the idea that they're going to continue to reinvest in the company and you're going to make a ton of money on the growth of that stock over time. So no dividend is paid with this one. But now with all of that said and all that stuff we just looked at, let's focus on the future. We just looked at the products. We just looked at the financial is all good. And by the way, quick pause off script here. Do you like when I review individual stocks like AMD here on the channel? If you do, comment below so I know to bring you more of this type of content. And also, if you could, just tap the like button on the video. It lets me know that you're loving this kind of content. I would really appreciate it. So here we go. Let's get serious here. Coming up here to the second quarter, AMD expects revenue to be approximately $5.7 billion, plus or minus $300 million. This represents a year-over-year growth of 6% and sequential growth of 4%. Now, this is where we, as smart investors, come in. This is AMD saying this, right? We want to expect that they will hit that target come quarter 2, 2024. So let's look at the quarterly income statement here on Seeking Alpha. You see how revenues were at $5.473 billion. If we look back to Q1 of the prior year, it was at $5.350 billion. In quarter 2 of the prior year, it was $5.359 billion. So if we do see a $5.7 billion in Q2 2024 or even higher, that's going to be a great sign. Now, if we see a lower amount, that's where we're going to have some concerns, and the stock price will result on that. It'll go down. Why is the revenue lower than predicted? What is AMD doing about that? What future ideas do they have to ensure the growth is coming up? That's all going to be critical as an investor when you buy individual stocks. See, most people, they just buy stocks and they watch the price go up and down. But what we want to do is we want to look at the under the hood of that vehicle to make sure the engine of our car is running well. So when you decide to buy that individual stock, make sure that you're really focused on that under the hood. And that means if everything continues to grow with AMD, especially thanks to the AI boom that's coming up, I could easily see a $245 price or higher as growth occurs. But drop your price predictions in the comment below, knowing that none of this is financial advice. The comments aren't financial advice to buy, hold, or sell. This is just your price prediction. None of us really know what will happen. But I will say that most of my holdings are in ETFs so that I can get a more diversified portfolio. And then that way I don't have to worry about all this stuff. If you don't like all this financial stuff I shared in today's video and you don't have to keep an eye on a company to make sure that they're doing well, then you don't need to worry about becoming an owner of a stock. Instead, focus on an ETF and be immediately diversified. Only about 5 to 10% of my portfolio is in individual stocks. So if you want to still get great exposure to the AI future and all these semiconductors, what you're going to want to do is check out this video next. And this video is all about the ETF SMH that's focused on AMD, Nvidia, and so much more. So check out that video and we'll see you on the next video.